Good to see you,
How
Win.
you doing? When how you doing? When you're all right?
Nice to see you. Nice.
Yeah.
RC Tottenham's in the house. Man United's in the house. Arsenal is in the house.
Absolutely.
No comment today. Arsenal, Travia, Debatella.
What you got there?
What's on?
Ah, I got a pan chocolate.
Oh, lovely. That's from Paris as well.
And you know what I had for dinner?
Huh?
Coq au vin.
Paris made some good pastries, you know.
Thank you.
No, it's cool. It's cool.
It's like their football.
Mike,
Over the last 5
Mike,
years.
if Crystal Palace win the FA Cup, have they been more successful than this year?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
This season, yes.
Yeah, Palace. If they win the FA Cup,
Absolutely. Totally.
You know Bodo Glint. No, I'm just asking. Win.
It's all been
Win.
done.
I'm just asking. Win. Prior to this season, had you heard of Bodo Glint win?
No. But the thing is,
Me neither. And you're not likely to hear about him again. Win.
we're not
You
to
heard
say
the
that,
finals?
that
You heard the
any
finals?
particular team is better than any particular team.
Yeah.
But if we're talking about having a successful season and you've got some silverware,
Bodo Glint win.
man. Silverware.
We beat Feyenoord before we got there, you know.
Silverware, bro.
And Feyenoord are third in the Feyenoord are third in the Bundesliga. Third of third.
Arsenal, Travia, Dembele.
We got to the semi-final of the cup with the big ears.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we
So-
did it, we
yeah.
did it 6 years ago. We did it 6
That
years
cup
ago.
it's
We
a
actually got to
handsome
the
cup.
final.
It looks very handsome, that cup. I wouldn't mind having that cup in my trophy
Which cup?
cabinet.
Oh,
Europa
you've
League.
got one, haven't you?
Europa League. It's handsome. Like, this looks good, man. It's good. Well, it's better than not hanging on to nothing, isn't it, really?
I think we might have hit on
Just like Arteta thought that, they played better than Paris Saint-Germain as well.
We did. No, we did.
He did.
We
He
did.
didn't win, though. He didn't win.
You played better than Paris.
No, jokes aside. I just need to hear this.
Yeah.
See the delusion.
You all watch the game.
Are you
right?
saying that you played better than Paris Saint-Germain over the 2 legs?
Nick, please, Nick.
No.
I'm actually appealing to you now, Nick.
Over the 2 legs?
No.
At home, you could have been beaten 3.
I'm talking about the other night. On when did we deserve to lose that game? Did we deserve to lose that game?
I thought you gave a good account of yourself for 20 minutes until you started the long throw-ins like Tony Pulis.
Absolutely.
And then
Absolutely, mate. I'm sorry.
Stevenage and that.
Exactly.
These men went into the Champions League semi-final
I've heard it all.
using Tony Pulis tactics. Can you believe this?
I thought it was
Stevenage.
I thought it was
Stevenage tactics. Man's doing long throws. And it's not like the last 2 minutes. They was from the start to the finish. They were doing long throws. It was so bad that Thomas Partey was summoned from one side of the pitch to the other side of the pitch at like 90 minutes to do a long throw, wasting 30 seconds to do that.
Kick it long.
Now I know you're
Kicking
saying
it long.
I know you're saying
No,
this.
come on.
No,
Mike,
you are. No,
Mike,
you are.
you can't say that you're eating at the table of the Giants and you're doing long throws. Nobody does that.
Was you happy with the football you played against Bodo Glint?
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Against Bodo Glint, Win.
Oh, yeah.
Win, are you having a laugh? Win.
They beat them, didn't they? 4-something?
Win. Come on, Win. I know you know Bodo
How much
Glint.
did they beat them on aggregate?
Goodness.
Yeah.
And
As I said to Nick this morning, they are a happy shopper of a flipping team. Bodo Glint, Win. Come on.
did you not say that Arsenal was going to win this thing?
Yes,
this time
Yes,
as well?
with chest.
Is
He said
that clipped up?
Yeah.
Is that
Yes,
clipped up
yeah.
on-
Yeah,
Got the receipts.
yeah.
It's recorded, right?
Well, actually,
You're
Why do you
asking
care?
me.
Why do you
Yeah.
actually care?
I don't.
You know what?
Imagine if Palace win, Chelsea win, and Tottenham win, that's 3 London clubs with trophies this season. Right? And you don't think this is the worst season? Tell me the truth. If you not think that's
We're not
the
saying
worst
that
season,
Arsenal are the worst team,
no.
but it'd be the
Yeah.
worst season
Because
because of what other people have done.
If Tottenham win it, do you think there should be a parade?
yeah, of course there is. We're gonna go. I'm going there.
Of course.
Why not?
Yes.
It's a winning. Mate, are you that delusional?
Good evening, gents. How are we?
All good,
Very
thank
well.
you,
Very
Mike.
good.
Very
Very happy. Very
Hot enough for you? It's been hot this week. Has it been a bit up and down? Would you say, guys?
It's been hot. It's been warm.
Yeah.
kind of, you know, a bit like Champions League. It's been a bit
Yeah,
hot.
semi-warm.
Champions League.
Yeah,
It's
no,
got kind
definitely.
of cold again.
Yeah.
All right. Well, as I'm not really talking about football anymore, I'm not talking about anything, to be honest. But I just want to get on and have a conversation with my friends. Well, I think you're my friends, but anyway. With all that said and done, we're going to have a nice little round table discussion, if you like, about the subject of the term authenticity or being authentic. Okay, so I'm interested in this because I think it, again, not thing, but it does mean different things to different people. So I'm really interested what it means to you guys, really, to be authentic or to feel that one is being one is being authentic to themselves and one is being authentic to others. All right. So just want to start this off quickly. So if you don't mind, what does authentic mean to you? What does the term authentic mean to you?
It's good. It's a good conversation of a good topic for conversation for real. For me, when I think of authentic or authenticity, in my head I get the picture of, let's say, for instance, a pair of Adidas trainers, and
Right.
you got, Adidas trainers come with their standard kind of 3 stripes, isn't it?
Yep.
So if you bang a full stripe onto that, then you know that that's not really the legitimate thing. Yeah, so to speak. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know you're not well endowed with finances at that present moment in time.
Yeah.
So it kind of being an authentic person or having an authentic personality, is kind of like that to me. You are your Adidas, so to speak, and if anything else is added to that, it becomes unauthentic. So what is the authentic person that I believe that I am? So I believe that as a person, you have qualities and values, whether they're inbuilt in or they're handed to you, via community or via family. And when you're addressing or dealing with people in general, those qualities come forth. So let me give, for example, if let's say say for instance, I was to go out and I was to, let's say for instance, rob somebody. I know that everybody in here will say that that's not Winston's authentic personality. He would not do that. Yeah, agree? So there's so those values and those qualities that we have, whether they're internal or natural to me or something that I've learned, those are these are my authentic qualities. So for my understanding, that's what an authentic person is. It's your values, your qualities that I have within.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Brilliant. Thank you, Win.
You're welcome.
Anthony, what do you think? Anything to add on that?
Yeah, I mean, we spoke about this the last one, about authenticity and how we talk about sort of like vibrations. If you feel it's not being authentic, something can tell you can feel. I mean, I think problem is today we do live in a world where being authentic is almost a criminal act. Okay, because we're sort of governed by so many things where if you be yourself, you're almost tripping over different wires because you could have offended somebody. There's new offences coming up almost every month. There's another offence. So if you try to be authentic, you try and people sort of think, well, that's a bit harsh. Well, you're actually just trying to be yourself.
Yeah.
And unless you just completely go off the grid, where you don't really have to worry about things, you just be yourself, you can be natural, fine. But the way that we interact with people today, I find to be authentic can be quite problematic. And it almost has to be in a way where we're almost overthinking sometimes what we have to say, rather than just being ourselves. I don't know if you get what I mean by that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you work in the corporate world, you'll 100% know what I'm talking about, right? Because there are so many things that you can't say, your behaviour and certain things. When you're with your friends, that can change. You can be a little bit more yourself. But depending what environment you're in, your being authentic can be a little bit of a hindrance. So I think for me right now, if I want to be more authentic, I have to say things like, well, no disrespect, I'm at a certain age now. Sometimes I say things I don't really mean to say, but I'm just being myself. Or I'd rather say this to your face than say it in another way. So it's tricky. It's really, really tricky. And I don't think it's that easy. Because certain people, you've got to also take consideration, some people have a very delicate nature. So that I might say something to you, Mike, right? And you might go, it's fine. I might say something to you, Nick, and you go, it's fine. You know, I know you. I might say something to you, Winnie, but you might go, actually, that doesn't sit well with me. Maybe because of the experience or something or another, but triggers you. So it kind of like being authentic, you almost have to think way before you say something. And that sometimes gets to me a little bit. So that's my view on authenticity. Being authentic.
Brilliant. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you very much. Nick.
Before I kind of give my take on it, because it goes along with, it's interesting hearing Winston and Anthony on this, because I agree with 90%, and then there's a percentage of where it just kind of it veers off for me slightly, which I question within myself. But let me just give you what ChatGPT kind of summed up here. So authenticity refers to as Winston said, it refers to the quality of being genuine, real, or true to one's nature or origin. And then it goes on to say it can apply in various contexts: personal authenticity, object authenticity, and cultural authenticity. So those are the three areas that it talks about in day-to-day life, if you like. But now, hearing, for example, because it was the last thing that I heard, hearing what you were saying, Anthony, I hear you, bro, 100%. I don't find, on here, let's be really, really genuine now, really authentic on here. So we're on here, we're doing this podcast. Am I 100% authentic on here? No. And what I mean by that, because authentic to me also encompasses being transparent. That's that bit about whatever's going on inside here, that I will talk about that out there. So there's certain bits, and now that touches on what you said, Anthony, where I'm in agreement. There's bits on here. We've just done a podcast. The reason why we didn't upload one last week, right, is because something has happened in there where YouTube has said we're not happy with that, so we're giving you a strike on it. So my aim is never to cause offense. I'm never aiming to cause offense. But if my words do cause offense, that's not my problem. That's the recipient's problem for me. That's not mine. That would never be my... So what does authenticity mean for me? What authenticity means for me is that I'm as true to this one as I possibly can be. Now, the three gentlemen here that I'm speaking to, wicked relationship, nothing but love, etc., etc. It's not as important to me whether you three or anybody else on the planet is going to be authentic. That's not I haven't got a dog in that fight. All I can do is be as authentic as I can be. And then hopefully that's taken on. So my beliefs, my values, as Winston said, my outlook on life, etc., etc., all of this stuff, all this amalgamation of stuff from upbringing and that filtering system that, like you said, Anthony, we spoke about last week, all of those things getting into place, and me, whatever's going on in here and in here, if I then talk about that in an open forum, I'm being authentic. But you're right, if I go to work, can I voice my political views in my job? No. It's one of the rules of engagement. That's not a thing that's okay in there. On here, nobody knows my political views on here, on what I'm saying on here, because again, I'm not aiming to cause offense. You know, so, but again, it comes to whatever's going on in here, whatever my belief system is, whatever my values are, whatever I've kind of studied and I got all that fits, that's the genuineness of this one. I'm not interested, I'm not pointing the fingers at anybody else for not being authentic, because as I said to Michael before, I couldn't tell you how authentic I am. I'm just trying to be authentic. If you said to me on a percentage scale, Nick, how authentic are you? Can't answer that question. I don't know. I'm just trying, which then stops me from pointing the finger at anybody else and saying, oh, that geezer's not being authentic.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
That's it.
absolutely.
So that's my take.
Yeah.
So my thing on that is because I put it in as well. Yeah. So genuine, not pretending to be someone else. And I go along with you, Nick. To be honest, I think for me, it's not mandatory. It's not something I play great because listen, we all have different roles. That we all have to play different roles in our personal and private life, and I think I have the autonomy to kind of decide for myself how authentic I'm going to be, depending on where I am. For example, at work, do people know truly the real me? Am I being 100% authentic at work? I'll probably say no.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? And I would say no because I'm contracted to deliver a service, and my own personal views, you know, political, religious, whatever, I leave that at the door.
Mm-hmm.
Because it has no influence on what I'm about to do here. So my personal decisions are parked at the door, and I undertake a role. And also in terms of myself being authentic, it's about, I read the room as well. You know, you're saying about you're in a circle of friends, Nick, or a circle of trust. So I'm not speaking for you, but for me, when I'm around you guys, I can take the handbrake off. And I can be, I'm not saying 100% authentic,
Nice.
but at least, but I can probably be more comfortable and settled to be, more authentic with you guys than probably I would be with others. But in terms of reading that room as well, when I'm at work, I'll be honest with you. I mean, it depends on what I'm doing, but I'm not sitting there thinking. It depends on my relationship with the individual and what they're saying to me. But I don't really rack my brains to say, well, you know, is that person being authentic with me or not? You know, it depends on whether or not that person's in my circle of trust and whether I give a whatever.
Yeah. Can I just say, Mike, just to back you up on what you're saying, I'm not interested in whether other people are or not.
Yeah.
I'd agree.
No, depends on what, for me, depends on what's being said and the impact of what's being said. If I'm being honest with you, that's me. If it's something routine or something mundane, or somebody says, if I say I've got one set and you tell me you've got two, then who cares? I really don't care, to be honest. Do you know what I mean? But if it's something, go on, Nick.
I think, like, you know what you're saying. I appreciate authenticity around my friends and family. But when I'm dealing with other people, I don't necessarily expect that or feel a need to have that, to be fair. Because we're just colleagues at the end of the day, and I go to do my 9 to 5 and then come back home. But if there's an opinion or something where, let's say, for instance, my authentic self is called into play, I'm not going to act, but my authentic self genuinely will have a way of dealing with that is authentic to me.
Beautiful.
I.e., I'm not going to cause a negative reaction to somebody else because we don't agree. Because it's authentic for me to say we agree to disagree. That's authentic to me. So I can get around the workplace and still have a conversation, but let people know, like, look, you have that view. I don't necessarily share that same point of view, but we're cool. But I have a different point of view.
Nice.
Which you may not like, but that's me. But for me, it's very easy for me to be my authentic self. I've had conversations with Nick at times, and he said to me, he's asked me questions, and I'm like, what do you mean? And I genuinely don't know what he's mean, because the authenticity can be so innocent at times. You don't even understand the implications.
It's definitely
You know
innocent.
what I'm saying?
It's definitely innocent because it goes back to that state of flow. You're not thinking. You're just being.
No, you're just being. Yeah. So it's a very good subject to kind of understand what your authentic self is. But for me, I'm a kind of person that really sits in. I internalize a lot,
Mm.
and I have banter and conversations with myself
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
stuff in general. So I kind of understand what my core values are and
Yeah.
where the lines are,
Yeah.
what I will stand up for, and what I won't, so to speak. So,
Yeah.
but is that all authentic? I mean, there's a rabbit hole with regards to that as well.
Mm.
So,
Yeah.
Sorry, can I sorry,
I was
sorry, go on,
gonna-
Mike. Sorry, sorry.
No. Yeah, no. I'm going to come to it, but I'll let you guys free because I got a supplementary question. But go ahead, guys.
No, go for it, Anthony. Sorry, bro, I interrupted.
Yeah.
Please go, Anthony.
Okay, no. I was going to say it also goes with your relationships with maybe if you're involved, if you're married or you've got a partner. That's another one because I mean we could go into a complete different argument and different conversation about that between males, between your other halves,
Yeah.
whatever your partners, whatever. You being authentic with your partner. Now that's a different thing, right? You've got that scenario, right? So your wife or your girlfriend is walking out the door and they ask you that question. Do you think this looks good? Right? Now we've had this conversation before, Nick. So I know you're brutal, but what I was going to say is, imagine, that they're looking for the answer, and most men would say, well, if you don't like it, you become more diplomatic, right? You might say, maybe, maybe the other outfit you got, I think that looks better, or actually, I'm not quite sure it works. Where in your mind you think, that looks hideous. Oh my God, why the hell are you wearing that? It looks terrible. But you're not going to say it. You won't say it in that manner. You might tone it back a little bit. But in all seriousness, you're not going to be authentic because if you're being authentic, you don't know if you're going to go out that night at all, right?
yeah.
And also, I had this conversation with...
No, sorry. Carry on, Anthony, but no, I disagree, but please, carry on.
No, I would just say that
I know you're going to
as long as you know you're not being authentic,
yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah, but
because now it's you're putting on an act, so to speak, like a comedian would do.
But what I was going to say is, if you've established a relationship with your partner from day one, this is how I am, right? I'm not offensive. I just say things as I am. Then it becomes a little bit easier to be like, nah, it looks horrible, whatever. No, whatever. And it also depends on your relationship with that person. And so the reason what I'm trying to say that is that also depends on your relationship with the person you're dealing with, whether it's your partner, your work colleague, your friends, or whatever. Because your relationship with that person can sometimes determine how authentic you can be, right? Because you've got to take consideration. They might have had a past. They might have history on something. They might have an issue with certain things which it triggers them. Would you continue to be authentic even though that might actually bring up something in their life? So that's what I'm trying to say. It's not saying that you can't be, but I'm going back to what I said earlier. Depending on your relationship and also depending on the person that you speak to, if you can have that freedom to be that.
So, and I really I just want to touch on that really quickly. And it's not to go down that you both have said something, all three of you have said something that I absolutely agree with. There's a massive rabbit hole here. This could go out into such a big subject. But just to touch on this one, if somebody's been triggered by something, my thing is, I'm never going to ask you for a question if I don't want a truthful response. Now, it's not my responsibility, and it never is going to be my responsibility, my partner included. If she asks me a question, I will give her, she's asking for my opinion. I'm going to give her that opinion. That's it. It's not my responsibility. If she's got an issue there that could trigger her, if she doesn't get the response that she desires, that's not on me. She's asked me for my opinion. I'm going to present that. Done. It's very easy.
Your presentation, but you would have to manage your presentation, right?
I think so, because you got to remember that.
Yeah.
So I will say this. This is one part. We are going to be a bit of the football.
Yeah, I think we're a bit on it.
We are.
Not really. Not really.
No, I personally would manage my response.
Okay, can I just say something?
Yeah.
But that's your authentic self.
Yeah.
That's not Nick's.
No,
So,
I'm not.
thank you.
I'm not,
That's
I'm
it.
not saying
Yeah.
I'm not saying it shouldn't. But I'm saying I personally would manage my response.
But that's what I'm saying to you.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
you're probably more diplomatic, and so is Anthony, and probably so am I. But Nick's like, no.
No, that's fine, that's
You
fine.
asked me my opinion. I'm going
Yeah.
to give it to you. But
Yeah.
that's his authentic self.
Get
This is
that.
what we
And-
got. There's not time. Sorry, one second. Being authentic does not mean that it's one size fits all.
No.
Yeah.
Because some
Absolutely.
people are authentic in
Yeah.
criminal activity. That's
Mhm.
what they like doing. It's their value.
And this is
Yeah.
the thing. Just to
It's
add on,
not-
just to add on from that from 1 second. Also, and you're right, Anthony, in what you said. It depends on your relationship with that person. Now, it's not. This is the thing. It's not about the relationship with my partner. That's not what it's about. She's made it very clear, very clear. If she asks me a question, she wants an answer. She wants that
Yeah.
answer. She
Yeah.
wants a truthful and direct
She's
answer.
inviting a response.
That's
By
what
the
she
question,
wants.
by the nature, she's inviting a response.
Yes.
isn't she?
So, for
Yeah.
example, and this is a stereotypical thing, just to say, and it became a bit of a big thing. Now, I'm going to tell this story really quickly, and then I'm going to ask my missus if it's okay to air this. Yeah. So I'm gonna. So here's me being authentic. So one of the big issues come from me and my missus early on in the relationship when I asked her birthday was coming. I said, "What do you want?" And she said nothing. So have a guess what I got her.
Nothing.
Nothing. And then she got upset. Well, I don't understand what's gone on here.
It's called being male and female, my friend.
No,
Do
where
you
was
want
the
me to break-
when?
do you want me to break it down for you?
Well, as an Arsenal supporter, absolutely not. Yeah, you're out. No, but I've avoided one
It's
year.
time for me to have a question break, everyone.
You know what? I'm thinking about biting into this garlic,
We don't know what's going on. He's fucking more as thick as I thought he was.
Mike. So do you want honesty or not? What is it you want? What is it you want? What is it you want? Because you're not being funny. For me, anyone that goes into that relationship, because I hear that it's a jesty thing, but anyone goes into that relationship and says, "What do you want for your birthday?" "I don't want nothing," and then says, "Oh, I know she wants something." Well, fuck me. Darren Brown is the one you better be married to. You
Yeah.
better be
No,
married to a mind reader.
I do agree.
You're in
agree with
trouble.
that. I mean, I have that similar situation, but mine's because of her upbringing, being from where she is. A yes is a yes and a no is a no.
Yes.
But there's still the gesture that goes that way, where you go, "I've done it anyway," and they'll go, "Oh, seriously." And I've had so many guys say this, "I've done it anyway." Now, I don't hear the person saying, "Oh, I didn't really want it." It's like, "Oh, you didn't have to," right? And that whole
That's a game. That's a game I'm not prepared to play.
I know, but that's the thing. Yeah, but that's you.
Yeah.
That's you.
It's a game I'm not prepared to
Yeah,
play.
but a lot of
You
guys
genuinely
do
think that
play
she just
that
wanted
guy.
nothing.
So say that again.
You know when she said I didn't want anything, did you generally take that literally? Oh, well then she doesn't want nothing.
Well, what was her answer to me?
Well, that was our answer.
Well, then
But,
yes.
Look,
So
look,
this is not
this debate
complicated.
This debate ain't about being chivalrous. That was about 6 weeks ago. All right, it's about being authentic, and he was being authentic.
okay.
So
Okay,
at the end of the day, what we got to understand, being your authentic and my authentic is different.
Yeah.
But I think the way that you can kind of balance it is, let's say let's say Anthony, for instance, you did go and buy that gift, but you really felt I shouldn't have done that. Then you know you're not being authentic with yourself because
right.
you're now at a grievance with yourself for doing something that you didn't feel was right. Because let's say, for instance, she said she didn't want anything.
Did
But
you
then
get
you
her
went
a
and bought
card?
something.
Did you get her a card then?
Anthony,
Of course he would.
what did she tell
He
me
got
she
a
wanted, bro?
He got a sweet FA.
I got her what she told me she wanted. I don't see the problem here. I see the problem the
No,
other
you
way
wouldn't.
around.
I don't see the problem.
I don't see the
No,
problem.
and this is what I mean by different relationships. Different relationships have different outcomes. So with me, I get the same thing, but I buy a card, and it's like, "Oh, thanks very much." Now, it didn't need to buy the card, but the fact that the card was bought, the response was still, "Oh, thank you." You didn't need to, but that card is put up on the shelf.
Nice.
This at the back. So in my mind, I'm thinking, okay,
That's lovely.
didn't want it, but it's there.
That's lovely. That's really, really nice. I don't get, Anthony. If I say to you, if you say to me, do you want to meet for a drink, and I say to you, yeah, I'd love to meet for a drink, or if I say, Anthony, do you want to meet for a drink, and you say no, I'm not going to turn up.
Yeah.
Okay,
Fine.
it's really straightforward.
Different though.
It's true, isn't it?
It's not. It isn't different. Truth is truth, bro. Real is real. Once you start getting into all these complicated games, oh, you know me. You know what I meant. No, I didn't. I didn't know what you meant. You
I'm
told
gonna
me
start
something.
calling-
That's how I know when you told me.
Nick, I'm going to start calling you Nick Keane, like Roy Keane, because you're just.
Oh yeah, oh mate, you'll have your legs. I'll tell you that for no. But that being said, you know, I think so. In terms of being authentic, because the world has changed, as we all know, over the last 20, 30 years. So my question is this: do we think, or is it harder to be? Are we allowed in this modern day now? Is it easy to be authentic, or are we allowed to be authentic, or are there any restraints on being authentic?
I think so. I've answered that earlier. I think today it's a lot harder to be authentic because of the new way of thinking, because things that were taken as acceptable maybe 5-10 years ago had now become offensive. So in that kind of minefield, the way that you might have been more authentic maybe 5 years ago, now you have to think twice. And I hear this conversation so many times. I've even talked to some.
You know, you personally, Anthony, is that something you battle with?
Oh,
would you
absolutely, absolutely.
Right.
I can come up with examples. I won't do it now.
Yeah.
I can come up with examples of things that I said maybe 5 years ago. If I said that in the office today, you are done. I'll be HR.
Mm.
But
Right.
it wouldn't even have been thought of as offensive those days. It would even,
Right.
and it's not that it is offensive. It's just
Right.
it's now put a microscope on literally almost anything you say, which could be misconstrued as being offensive. So in a way, me being authentic today is a lot harder than I would say 5-10 years ago.
It's something you have to manage. You feel like you have to manage that.
Oh, things we're talking about was unacceptable.
Yeah,
We're talking about things that are just straightforward,
Mm.
not even offensive to the other person.
Mm.
It's just that it's been now, how do I say, this steamroller effect has happened where people now put a label or bracket something as offensive.
Mm.
And people don't think it is, but they'll say, okay, fair enough, it's offensive, don't talk about it.
And so,
Right.
sorry, Anthony, can I jump in? Because I totally agree with what you just said. I totally agree.
Okay.
The one thing I do want to say is something Winston said earlier on in this, which is how great a conversation this is. Because look, we're talking about authenticity, and then because of certain subjects that have gone on here, we're now talking about being like that it can be seen as or felt as offensive to somebody. But and that's another one of these rabbit holes that we can go down to. But for me, somebody else's offensive is nothing to do with me. As I've said, part of my authentic self is never deliberately to cause offense. That's never my aim. So if I'm just being and they're offended by that being, okay, well
Yeah.
then let's have a conversation. Let's have a conversation about
But Nick,
it.
but I'm saying, because things have changed and we have evolved.
Mm.
I'm saying, is that? Do you find it more of a challenge now to be as authentic,
No,
perhaps, as
I
you
think
would
I'm gonna-
like to be?
I think I'm going to go to what Anthony said earlier, which is maybe I'm going to use and what Anthony said earlier, or what Winston uses quite a bit, which is maybe it's an age/wisdom thing, but I don't necessarily. I think I've learned the way to get that message across. If, like you said, might manage the message. I don't try to go out to harm anybody verbally ever. I don't ever go out to do that. But because of that, I don't find it more difficult to be authentic. The relationship that I have with this one is the most important,
Mm.
and I'm trying to
Like
get that. I'm
like
still
that.
trying to balance that one out. Do you know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
from there, if I'm then communicating with you, Mike, of course you and I are friends, so I can rib you. Do you know what I mean? With banter, you can do the same. All four of us can do that. Now, when I work as a therapist, and I just want to take it to this, is it harder? When I work as a therapist, if I'm, say for example, Mike, me and you didn't know each other, you walked in and you was effing and blinding about things, then I'll join in with that. Because I use that language as well, the effing and blinding. However, if I've got an older woman of say like late 60s, early 70s that comes in, a respectful woman, I am going to mind my P's and Q's. That is a part of me being authentic within that situation. That's what refers back to what Winston said earlier. There's it can kind of go, but as long as I'm sticking to what's real and genuine for this one,
Yeah.
that's it. As long as I'm not
Yeah.
faking it, I'm fine. But I
Yeah.
will hold my P's and Q's if it's an elderly person or
Mm.
it does that. So, but no, in general, my one word answer would be no. I don't find it more difficult now. I don't, on here,
Okay.
what now that we're doing this podcast, this seems to be a balancing act. I've got to say, I'm finding this quite
What do you
difficult.
mean?
Well, again, not being
Balancing
funny.
act is-
A balancing act in the sense of there's certain subjects that, and I'll take ownership of this. There's certain subjects on here that I would refuse to get involved in on here,
Right. Okay.
and
Okay.
that's not through fear of wanting to be authentic. It's through
Yeah.
fear of referring to something Anthony said. It's through fear of somebody taking offense and acting on that offense.
Right.
So there's
Okay.
certain subject matter that I would not speak about on here, and I would just say
Yeah.
that's not for me.
Excellent. Thank you. Winnie, societally, do you know, in terms of your ability or one's ability to be as authentic as they possibly can?
Listen.
Any? What's your view on that? Has things changed?
I don't business about that. I don't.
Okay.
I'm me. I'm gonna
Okay.
be authentic to myself. If I'm an Adidas trainer, I'm not a four. I'm not a four. I don't have 4 stripes. I've got 3. That's me. You're always gonna get the authentic me. I will be diplomatic because diplomatic is authentic to me. So if I go into whatever department I go into, I'm still going to be authentic. Because like
Yeah.
Nick said, I don't want to cause offense. That's authentic to me. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
But you put me on trial, and for me to be my authentic self, in any situation, you're going to get authentic self. Because I don't care about not being not offending when it comes to being my authentic self. Because I'm 100% that in my soul. So there is limitations to your behavior, and you have to act. But I know I'm acting.
Yeah.
If you get my meaning, I'm acting in a specific genre because I've got a job role. That's an act. But I know within myself that I'm not being authentic in that role. Put me in front of the court though, and you ask me A, B, or C to want me to be authentic about it, you're going to get the authentic me. I'm going to tell you exactly how I feel. If it offends you, just like Nick said earlier on, it's your problem. It's not mine.
Yep.
Join the far queue because I don't care about it.
Yep.
I'm just going to tell you how it is. That's just me. But I don't want to cause offense. It's not my bag. That's not my bag.
When Michael's loading up, bro, I can see it in his face. Be careful.
I haven't. Don't you put me down that lane, mate. Don't you try that. No, that's good. That's good.
But no, I can see how it can be difficult in the world because when I go to work and 90% of people are not authentic. They're
Yes.
Yeah.
just faking it. But it's cool. It's cool. But when I'm around you guys, I sense authenticity. We don't need to fake it. Yeah, we're gonna have banter and we're gonna have a laugh and a joke, and I might cuss a few words, which is not normally what I would do. It's not authentic to me. I don't really like cussing. But I don't necessarily dislike it. I like being humorous. So if it's gonna make you laugh, then but I'm still being authentic to that.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's it, man.
Yeah, I like that. I think for me, I think without being I think I agree, to be honest, wholeheartedly with you guys. I think without sounding like a bit of a dinosaur, I think the rules of engagement, really, if you like, around being authentic, has changed already. There's, sometimes you just, in terms of trying to embrace the modern world and some of the things that are going on, it's, and I get what you're saying, when sometimes it's being diplomatic, really, and playing a particular or undertaking a specific role, which I'm sure we all have to do in some shape or form. But, it's an ongoing battle that I have. As not an ongoing battle. I think, I know that, within myself, and am I 100% authentic every minute of every day? Nah, I'm not. You know what I mean? If I'm being quite honest, do you mean? Is that work in progress? 100% it is. But when I think when I'm not being as authentic as I can, I think for myself personally, it's around diplomacy.
Yeah.
Around diplomacy, reading the room, trying to think about the impact of, what that might have on others. Do you know what I mean? So that's where, but then sometimes I think that, you've also got to get that balance, because also that sometimes can do greater damage as well. Because I want to try to be as truthful where I can with people. Do you mean? And not blow smoke up the arse and lead them down avenues and roads that probably won't be great for them ultimately. But it's just trying to find that balance.
It gets smoked out later on anyway.
Yeah.
So,
Exactly. Yeah.
Because your authentic self will manifest itself, so to speak.
Yeah.
In the long run, and people will say, "Okay, well,
yeah,
my man was faking it." So
yeah.
I avoid all of that.
Why didn't you tell me that? Yeah.
Exactly, and I try to avoid that as much as possible, because I just want to. I don't want to have that conversation with you down the line. That I wasn't.
Me too.
So I just being as real as possible.
Yeah.
In the borderlines of not being I don't want to be disrespectful, but I'm always going to try to be as real as possible. I don't want to tell no one a fake story of who I am or what I'm about.
Yep.
Not really.
Yeah.
That's what I want.
Yeah.
Ultimately.
But I think I mentioned this earlier. I'm not judge and jury whether somebody's being authentic or not. I think that's more about themselves than me.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm gonna police myself.
Yes.
I'm not gonna police others.
100%.
You know what I mean?
Love that.
And to be honest, and if you're not within my inner circle anyway, I don't really care anyway. If I'm being quite honest, you can have 5 houses and whatever. I don't care. Do you know what I mean? I just want to control my controllables and let you worry about what you need to worry about. So that's kind of where I am with that. But
So,
I think it's been a really good product.
So do I. I was just going to say to you, Mike. I waited for a little pause. I think this has been great, Mike. But I have to. I'm conscious that I'm taking up their yard, so I'm going to have to come off for a sec, if that's all right.
Yes. No.
I'll cut this bit out. I'll cut this bit out.
Yeah. We're gonna wrap up now. I just want to say thank you, guys. I mean, personally, I've got a hell of a lot out of this, to be quite honest. Do you know what I mean? And I've got some personal takeaways I'm going to try and put into my armory. But anyway, before we wrap up, just very, very quick fire, very quickly. Any closing? I'm going to go around quickly around this subject matter. Anything you guys would like to add personally? I'll start with you, Anthony.
I think the good word that was connected to this whole conversation was diplomacy, and I think that, to me, is another subject we could talk about, what diplomacy is, right?
Yeah.
So I think that definitely links onto this. They go together. So that's my takeaway from today.
Nice.
Nick?
Authenticity, beautiful, love it. I'm always trying to. I have no idea how authentic I am, because I'm always keeping gauge on it. But it's that bit that we spoke about last week where we were talking about, Winston mentioned it as like a vibration. But the one thing that I'm trying to also carry on with this is something, we spoke about this a few pods ago, something called congruence, which is kind of it's a transparency to your authenticity, so that what is here, what is inside, is what you show. But again, I take from what you guys said that there does need to be diplomacy within that, because as I said, I'm never out to offend anyone. That's not my thing. But truth and honesty is such a high thing for myself, and I fail every day. Don't get me wrong, I fail a lot, but because it's such a high thing, that overrides. And if diplomacy isn't working, that will still work. That's what I've taken, and it's just kind of backed that up for me.
Excellent, Nick. Winnie?
Yeah, I think it's really important to be yourself. be yourself, your authentic self. Because in the long run, if you're trying to be an imposter and you're trying to be somebody else, that will just be found out. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect and I've not had that imposter personality or persona, because I definitely have. But I've learned from it, and I've realized that, you know what, I just best to be myself, because there's less damage done cognitively later on. So be happy in being yourself, because at the end of the day, you know, not everybody's put on this planet to be Mr. Nice Guy. You know, people are put on the planet to do crazy stuff. So yeah, that's not my bag. So
No.
I like who I am. So I just deal with that. Be authentic. Be yourself. That's what I say. But can I just also say that, you know, just for Arsenal supporters that did you know, that's had a bad week this week because they got knocked out of the Champions League. I have a croissant on me, okay? It's
Fantastic.
straight from Paris.
Fantastic.
And he wasn't being, and that's not being authentic, by the way. So you just disrupted everything you've just said there.
No, it's absolutely authentic, because I've got a sense of humour. Like you.
Apparently so, Winnie. Apparently so.
Do you know what that means?
No,
by the way?
and
Sorry, Winnie, can we draw a line here, please? Oh, the finish line. Sorry, the line.
Right, okay.
And finally,
my
Mike,
thing. No, I was going to say, for me, finally.
I didn't think you was going to use the word final. Sorry.
No. You know, in terms of being authentic, just what I said earlier, I'm interested in myself and this one, and understanding myself. I'm not here to police others.
Nice.
And I'm going to pay less attention to that, really, because it used to bother me really before. Is that real? Is that not real? And it used to do my head in. I'm trying to push back on that now, really. And as long as I'm being as authentic as I possibly can, and recognizing that that's work in progress, that's enough for me.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Love that, Mike.
Yeah.
That's nice.
But thank you, guys.
Are you
I think that's a wrap.
Are you going back to play snooker now, Mike?
Yeah. I'm gonna. No, I was actually going to come down yours there.
Sorry, Mike.
I was not expecting that.
I know.
Sorry.
He's had that cocktail ready with. I know that. He's had that cocktail ready. But no, thank you guys. Another great pod, and look forward to catching up next week.
Thank you, Mike, for doing that.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Peace and love.